welcome to another air rifle adventure. I'm Dr. Russ. These are the Dr. Russ and Dr. Paula air rifle adventures. I hope you enjoy them. We've started our 4th year. We've got 100 videos behind us. If you'd like to check that library, just click on the little round picture of me. Not to look at me, but to access those 100 videos. And if you want to make sure you don't lose out on the next 100, you might want to subscribe. We do about 3 a month, and that'll let you get access to those, that next 100, if you will. I've got a passion for air guns. Maybe you do too. The passion comes, I think everybody gets a passion when they open up a box with an air gun in it, any air gun. But how do we get the passion to last? And here I've been at it many years, and I can tell you the secret ingredient inside of passion: accuracy. You know, when your air gun is accurate, I mean dead on accurate, you'll stay keeping that passion a long time. The moment you've got a bunch of flyers, it won't be long before that gun goes into a closet and stored away for years. That's not any good. These guns cost $300, $400, $500, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, and they don't belong locked up in closets for years. So keep the passion, but stay accurate. And that's what we're going to discuss today. That's what this video tonight is about. We're going to take this Bone Collector by David Waddell. You perhaps know about him. And it's the one Gamo with a wood stock. We're going to mount a CV Life scope to it, and a red dot, and a laser, all, and mount them accurately. We're going to talk about all the parts that you need and how quick it can be. And then most important, I'm going to show you how to be accurate all the time with whatever air gun you have. So stay tuned, because we're sharp. If you like the video, you're going to want to give us a thumbs up. If you want to comment, hit the comment button and leave me a comment. I always get back. It might take me a week, but I do. And if you want to make sure you don't miss any of those future videos, subscribe. I get comments and discussions all the time with people telling me that their air gun is accurate, and I'm glad to hear it. But I always follow it up with the question, how far out are you shooting and the gun is accurate? Oh, 25 yards, 10 yards. Every gun's accurate to 10 yards. I'm talking about 35, 50, 75, even 100 yards. There are air guns today that shoot out accurate for 600 yards. So when you say your gun is accurate, or you're trying to achieve some level of accuracy, you'll want to add to it, how far out is the gun? Because you see, when a gun is just an 1/8 of an inch off at 25 yards, it can be 3 and 4 inches off at 50, and 8 inches off at 100. And we want tight groups. We want to put bullets on top of bullets, at least I do. And there's several levels of making your air gun accurate. Let me show you a couple. First of all, let me show you that when you put a scope on your gun, and let's pretend this hand here is the scope and this is the barrel. It's 2 or 3 inches higher than the barrel. And we make adjustments to make that pellet drop a little lower, a little to the left, a little to the right. And as we do that, it's good if the gun is level and the scope is directly above that barrel. Now the moment, and I'll overdo this, but imagine that this is your setup and you're adjusting, but you're not adjusting this way. You're adjusting this way, and that doesn't help. So rule 1, we want the gun to be at some level of accuracy. I've always put a little bubble lever on the gun to know how important this is, but that was my level of accuracy to that moment. Let me show you an even bigger level adjustment that you could be making, and those in competition are doing exactly this. First of all, they need a little tool. What is the name of this? This is it's the FZ chute, and it's only $25 in a CV Life catalog, and then you get 15% discount at the end. After you order, you put down Russ 15, and everything in that catalog is 15% off, and the prices were good to begin with. Like I said, this is just $25, and it comes with this level too. And what we want is to make sure that the gun is level and that barrel is level. And when we have all of that level, now we can make that gun more accurate than not. Now let me show you here. The rings on a gun have these screws. We leave them a little bit loose in the beginning, and we can turn this scope so that the crosshairs are perpendicular and level to the gun and to the target range. Now we have a real chance of accuratizing this gun very, very well and to a high level of standard. Now maybe not all of you want to go an extra $25 and get everything level. In this case, I'm doing it. I just wanted you to see how easy it is to do. Now, let's talk about the scope itself. This scope came from CV Life. People ask me, where'd you get that scope? And every year I change my answer because I find a better scope, but I'm going to have a little trouble finding a better scope than this. This is out of the CV Life catalog. Notice how short it is. So when I break this barrel, we don't have any problem back here. Lots of scopes are too long, and they just ruin your chance of breaking the barrel and pumping the gun up. Also notice that in its short length, we want this back part where we focus about 2 inches back. Behind this breech, this is the breech, we want about 2 inches back. I think I read in the instructions that there's a 3-inch beyond that where it gets real accurate. But my point is, you want to move it forward and backwards until it is the right distance from your eye, because when you have the wrong distance, and I've done this wrong before I did it right, I came away with a 30-06 once, and the scope cut me right here and left me with a black eye. Why? Because it was just too far back, and then the kick caused it to do that. So to avoid that in the future, you don't want this more than about 2 inches. You certainly don't want the scope beyond where a break barrel rifle breaks. Now, if we don't have a break barrel, go ahead and get those long scopes. Fortunately, CV Life has them all. Now, here's the bad news. CV Life, while they have this great scope with a laser attached, as you can see, and I like a laser because I'll tell you, you come down in a house in a room and you're shining that laser around, if there's a burglar down there, it says, you know, maybe I got a better place I can be. There's this red dot going all over it, and pretty soon it's going to land on me. I like the red dots, and the good ones have a red dot or a green dot. Some have all kinds of configurations. This one does. And we can change red and green, but it's very good when that animal's moving. Now, I did something this morning that was very unusual for me. I shot 3 squirrels. They get up in our attic, just do terrible havoc, and 2 crows. And I can tell you that when you shoot them, particularly with 17 or 22 caliber, even 25 caliber, these things flop around out there. So you want to get on them again quick. Sometimes they're flopping around already. And you're going to find that the red dot is the better way to go. A lot of people like a red dot on top of a pistol. This particular gun, this happens to be a Sig Sauer. This is the 17 caliber, and it's made of metal. It functions just like a regular 1911. I do have a flashlight on the bottom, and there's the laser working, and I have to change the battery. for that light. But CB Life has those lights and those lasers that go underneath the barrel. They have them if you want them above, and if your scope has Picatinny rails on top. Now, this is the part that CB Life doesn't have, at least not yet. I've asked them to get it. And what it is it's called a conversion rail. A rail that converts an 11 millimeter, sometimes referred to as 10 millimeter, dovetail here, and then the 20 or 21 millimeter Picatinny rail on top. And because a lot of brake barrels, probably all the pistols, they all have this small 10 millimeter, 11 millimeter rail up here on the top, and yet all the good scopes are set for Picatinny 20s. So we've got to get it converted. And so how do we do it? Well, we find these on Amazon, we find them on eBay. They even have this pin. Some of them have a pin. You can crank it in, you can crank it out, but it makes sure for those guns who have a hole up here that this rail can't slide backwards or forwards with various kicks. I don't have a lot of that trouble when I'm shooting air guns, but it does happen. These things are under 10 bucks. And I've got quite a few air guns, so I've got quite a few of these converters. I think you get a deal even if you buy 3. You can get them long too. If you have a big scope, and if you have say a PCP or a large bore rifle, you may want the large scopes. But this scope right here was $98 on the CB Life catalog, and then you get 15 bucks off of that, 15% discount. This happens to be a more narrow tube here, and I like it for 17 and 22 calibers. The larger scope I think I showed in an earlier video, and longer I like on my bigger air rifles. But I'll tell you, you're going to have trouble finding that anywhere for $98 minus 15. It's you don't have to get all this on it. You can get just the red laser by itself. You can get the red dot by itself. You can get this whole combo, like I said, for $98. Along with that leveler, let's just look at a couple of other things. Here's a scope that they have. Here's a scope, and here's a laser, but we don't have the red dot on it. This too would be real good for the guns that need a short scope. This happens to be a 2.5 up to 10 power, and then the forward end is 40 millimeter. The larger that is, the greater amount of light that you can get coming in. Now here's something too. They've got all these combinations, but this happens to be a red dot with a laser, but not a scope. And for handguns, etc., this would be magical, if you will, with just those two. Sometimes you're shooting in a dark basement or a dark barn. This just might be the way to go. Keep in mind, these red dots are really good for up close shooting, and the laser's good, I think, for defense. You can make up your own mind as to what you like. Let me help you now get this thing sighted in. It looks like it's going to rain, so I did a little shooting earlier today trying to beat the rain. Unfortunately, Dr. Paula wasn't here to do the videotaping. But with that Gamo bone collector, you can see how I just walked the pellets right into the target at 25 yards. I don't know if it's 2 or 3 there, but the walking in, how did that happen? Well, let me give you a little idea how it happened. On the scope, you take off these adjustment caps, and you're looking, here's one configuration. There are other configurations. And this will allow us to go left or right. This is up or down. And once you get it into a position, you see that little tiny cotter key there, that will lock it into place. And this gun and this scope will be sighted in for good. If you want to do some changes, this is a quick change mount where just a screwdriver can loosen this and we move it from one gun to another. As we're moving, a couple things happen. Obviously, we're trying to get it to do a nice group right into the bullseye. But down here, I'm about 1.5 inches low. Still moving it up and thinking I had moved it to the left enough, and I didn't. I start the movements to the left, and it was actually the third movement to the left and another click down, and I was able to put these right into that middle. Now, when I get the gun sighted in this example for 25 yards, I like a cheek piece, and my cheek comes up to the stock right here, and a piece of duct tape. You can use whatever kind of tape you want, but this piece of duct tape is what we're talking about. Notice here that the scope is always looking straight, but that's not the pellet path. The barrel is down below the scope. Here's the scope, here's the barrel, and so in effect, out at 25 yards, says my target here, I'm hitting the bullseye. But the pellet continues to go high, out about 50 yards, and then starts to come back down, crossing the bullseye again at 75, and then dropping low at 100. Well, that's the scope, that's the barrel, that's the distance, 25, 30, 75, 100 yards. But what do I want to know? My pellet path here, I want to put down 0, and over here, I want to put down whatever it is. It might be 2 or 3 inches for you, so that you would know. I always want to know that this gun is shooting high at 50 yards, at about 3 clicks or 3 inches up. It drops back down at 75. It's what we call a 0 again. It's zeroed out. And then when she gets on out to about 100, oh, she can be 6, 7, 8 inches low. But you need to know that. What if the only critter you have gives you a 100-yard shot? It's good to know it's an 8-inch drop at that. Another thing is, I've always said, don't let the wind keep you in. Rain maybe, but not wind. So on this cheek piece, I put down that if the wind is blowing at 10 miles an hour, and by the way, it usually is. I don't know if that's the rotation speed of the Earth, but if it's left or right, we want to move at 25 yards, left or right, 1 inch. And at 50 yards, it's 3 inches. And at 75 yards, it's 5. And at 100 yards, with a 10-mile-an-hour wind, it can be 6, 7, 8 inches off. The point is that you need to test this and determine these numbers for yourself so that you can make this cheek piece just right for you. Now, what happens if I'm in a 20-mile-an-hour wind? Well, I just put 2x there as a multiplier. I haven't really tested that well, but I should. For each gun, it would be a little different. For each caliber, for each pellet, it could be different. So in other words, instead of it being 1 inch, it might be 2 in a 20-mile-an-hour wind. It might be 3 at a 30-mile-an-hour wind. Well, whatever it is, you want that marked down. And up here, I didn't mark it, but you'd want to mark it down that it's 0, up here 2 or 3 inches, it's 0 again, and then it's down 5, 6, 7 inches out here. That's what you want to do. Now, on occasion, one scope out of about 20, I've moved it all the way to the left, I've moved it all the way to the right, all the way up, all the way down, and I still can't get that pellet into that bullseye. So what do I do? Well, I take these screws out of the mount. And when I take them out, I've taken these Old McDonald, Burger King, Arby's, it doesn't matter to me, but the plastic cup, and I cut these out. Now these are called shims. You can get them at a gun store in metal, and they're very expensive. And I found out that whether you shoot powder or air, this works just fine. On the rarest, I might have done this twice in my life, put in 2. And I can put it on the side because the back here needs to be pushed over. I can put it on the top. I can put it on the bottom. That lifts the back up. I can push the back to the right. We would know that based upon where the pellet is hitting, and I still can't get it into that bullseye. Now once I've done that, I tighten the screws back. I never see those again. And this is something new. I'm just starting to fill it out. But I'm going to put down here Gamo Swarm Bone Collector 22 caliber, because that's how tight of a group I can get at 25 yards. I'm going to write that with a Sharpie pen, not black, probably silver. And then my next gun, maybe a 25 caliber, but I will change. And this particular target set out at 25 yards, along with these cheek piece notes. Can take 20 guns. I've got, I think, 46. And I can be accurate any day of the week. If friends come over, they've got their gun, I've got mine, I'll outshoot them every time because of this. And I'm very comfortable with what happened here after I did this. Now, I just want to share a couple of other quick things with you. I found in this same catalog, and I got to tell you, I talked to a gal there named Jill Blake, and I fought for this discount for you, so please use it and please enjoy it. We were seeing one of our viewers yesterday and did a video, and he just ordered from the catalog. It works. Everything works. It works for me too. Here's one of the things that's in that catalog. It's a couple of magnets. Comes with some screws, and you screw them under a table, a desk, under a dashboard of a car, and they then stick to the gun and they hold it there like a holster. And so anytime you have a concern, you can pull that out. And these things were $5, $6. I can't even remember what it was, but it was cheap. Now let me show you one other thing that you need to know, particularly, well, with any caliber, definitely with those 17 calibers that can shoot up to 1,600 feet a second. You don't want that kind of speed. Now I know we can all play and do some dieseling. I've done it myself. You stick a little Vaseline in the back skirt of a pellet. Boy, does it make a noise. And if you painted white nail polish into the back of it before you put in the Vaseline, you can see that doggone thing. After about 10 yards, she loses it in the air and goes everywhere. We don't want that. And we don't want it for a second reason. Number one, it's inaccurate. Remember, I told you, your passion will last in a direct correlation with how accurate your guns are. And to make them accurate and to make them backyard friendly so we don't have the neighbors calling police, is we've got to get them down under the speed of sound, which is about 1,050 feet a second. Then we want it a little bit lower than that, because that's where a pellet, which is, whether you realize it or not, is in the shape of a birdie when we play badminton. And we want it in its sweet spot. Every gun's a little different, but the sweet spot is somewhere between 850 feet per second up to about 950 feet a second. How in the world do we accomplish that particularly with some air guns that shoot 1,600, 1,200, 900 feet per second, we need to know some ways to slow it down. Well, one nice thing is if you had a power screw, but only the expensive guns have that. So what does Dr. Russ do? Well, let me just show you a couple of things here. If you'll look right down here, here's some 22s. And I had to write it on the back. These are 14.3 grain. Also notice Crossman uses the smallest hollow heads possible. They call it a hollow point. I call that a dimple. But that's what makes these so very, very accurate. Notice the weight of this one, the same. From Crossman, 14.3. They didn't put a dimple. These are not as accurate as the hollow points in my estimation. They call these piranhas. Here's a Sig Sauer 22, and let's take a look at the weight. 14.5, slightly heavier. When Crossman makes a premium product, they use the Benjamin name. So here's the Benjamin 22, 14.3. It's that little dimpled hollow point. I don't know if it's the same one or not. And then we climb a bit here. Here's Sig Sauer's hollow points, 16.6 grain. Still, in my estimation, not heavy enough. So here is some JSB match. These are made in Czechoslovakia, the Diablos. And there's the caliber, 22. And the weight, 18.13. Now we're getting into a heavy pellet. And that slows down. And when that slows that pellet down, it's more accurate. It has a better chance of coming into your sweet spot. Now you may or may not have a chronograph. This is kind of nice. Retail $199. I think I found it for $99 once. But you just put it on the gun, and you can see the speed. But you don't need to go out and buy one of these. You'll see it on the size of your group. And when you can't get it into a tight group here, your pellets are still going too fast. Now, another thing people say is, if I slow my pellet down, it won't be as deadly. It'll be more deadly. How do we determine and measure deadly? And the answer is with something that's not called velocity or speed per second. What we're looking for is FPE, the energy that's made equivalent, and it's a multiplier. It's multiplying the weight of the pellet with the speed and divided by a really long number. I need to publish that one day, but the point is that energy goes up as your speed comes down, if you're doing it because of raising the weight of a pellet. And I gotta tell you, you get hit with something heavy, it knocks you down. If I threw a bowling ball at you, you don't want to be hit with that. If I threw a tennis ball at you and hit your shoulder, that's not nearly as bad. But boy, when you feel like you've been hit with a bowling ball, and that's what heavier pellets and slugs, that's why slugs are so popular. We're actually becoming more deadly. So have your fun with the dieseling, etc., etc. Have some platinum pellets that travel at 1,500 feet a second. But when it gets down to being a true air gunner and somebody who enjoys the sport and has a passion for it day after day after day, you want accuracy. And that's what we have. Now I've got a really good video coming up about some new research that's been found out on barrels. We'll cover that the next time. Meanwhile, don't forget, give us a thumbs up, leave your comments, and subscribe if you don't want to miss the rest of the year's videos. And remember, I answer them all. Our motto is stay safe, stay sharp, and silent.